Hey guys, this is Kami Ken, and today I'm going to introduce you to the storytelling model that really helped me understand how stories work and how my favorite stories actually cause me to feel deep emotion. What are the inner workings behind them, and what gears can I learn to shift to make my stories the same way, to give my stories the same feeling of completeness that I experienced from my favorite work in the past. And that theory is Dramatica. Dramatica is a storytelling theory co-authored by the minds of Melanie Ann Phillips and Chris Huntley. And I have it right here. I basically learned about it when I first searched up how to write a complete story. Because after reading A Silent Voice, it felt like I had just had such a complete experience of a story full of all the emotions and the ups and the downs, everything you could want from a story, and a clear, solid ending that I was just like, I feel like I got a full course meal and I want to recreate that in my own work. And I was like, the only way I can really describe this feeling is complete. This was a complete story, kind of like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, or Rurouni Kenshin from beginning to end, or Gurren Lagann from beginning to end. I was just like, these stories feel like they had everything. They feel full. It's like there's nothing missing from them that is lacking, or that I'm just like, man, they really missed that. But these stories had everything in them, and I was just like, I want to create the same thing. So I looked it up online, and then this website popped up called Narrative First, and then the article popped up, Writing Complete Stories, and that's where I started my journey into diving into Dramatica. So then, what is Dramatica? Dramatica is a narrative theory which views story as a process of a single human mind trying to solve a problem. It sees characters not as complex and contradictory living beings, but as representatives of thematic ideas pertinent to the story. It is basically a guaranteed way to always make sure your story is structurally sound, no matter what you write about. And this, to me, was such a revolutionary way of thinking about storytelling that at the time when I first picked it up, I didn't even really think about story in any other way than 3-act structure that they taught me in school. So I was like, what does this do differently that I'm not learning in school? Dramatica proposes that a full, complete story is an argument which is explored from all sides by the end of the story. It classifies anything outside of that as a tale or a sequence of events from which you can derive a variety of meanings. Dramatica is a tool meant to clarify the meaning you intend to impart without making it seem like a lecture. This means when you're writing a story and you only have one point and you don't explore the other sides of the point or of the argument, then that is lacking. Like, your story is lacking because it's missing the elements or the points of views that would make it seem like each side has a valid point and that you're not just lecturing at the audience. All right, so who is Dramatica for? Obviously, it's for storytellers, but Dramatica is for you if you want your readers to feel like your story was worth it by the end, meaning like they got everything they wanted from your story. There was the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs, and your story had it all. Like, if you're writing and you're like, okay, what's missing from this story? How do I balance it out? Or how do I make it feel like where it covers all sides of the argument? Like, how do I make it feel like it's not just a one-sided thing? That's what Dramatica is for. If you want your story to have a timeless quality to it, a lasting effect on your audience, Dramatica is great for that. If you get stuck trying to balance your story narratively, or if you feel like your story is missing important plot lines or characters. The cons of learning Dramatica is that the learning curve is actually really steep. And I would know because I read the whole book and it took me I read the whole book maybe a couple years ago. But before that, I'd been learning and studying the theory on the website, on the YouTube videos, using the actual Dramatica program, doing all of that for years and years and years just to try to figure out, like, how does this actually work? And then reading the book from cover to cover actually sealed in that knowledge. And that was a process that took almost 8 years or longer. It doesn't mean that it'll have to take you that long, but it's not easy. Like, you'd be better off reading anything else to learn the process of storytelling and to get into it. Dramatica can seem convoluted and confusing and super difficult at times, but it's just complex. It's complex, and it's just simple concepts built on top of each other so that you can actually understand this whole thing. But it's gonna take time and effort, but the results will be worth it. So yeah, just like I said, it can be daunting to read, and there are easier storytelling paradigms out there for sure. So these are a few examples of some complete stories that I have witnessed in the past, and that if you wanted to map them to Dramatica, you would be able to map it and understand how these stories work from a structural level. That would be the first 10 Pixar movies. That is from Dramatica's words, not mine. Actually, I haven't actually mapped them out myself, but that's what they are saying. So, first 10 Pixar movies: Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, Breaking Bad, and that's from my estimation, just because it actually had that full feeling, that complete feeling. The Hunter x Hunter Chimera Ant arc, that is one of those stories that you just sense that it had that complete full feeling where you're just like, this is an entire story that is making sense, and it's like by the end of it you're like, I understand the exact meaning, the exact point behind the story that the author was trying to make. And Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is another one of those stories where it is a once in a decade masterpiece, and by the end of the story you're like, I understand the point that the author was trying to convey. Even though it was a really complex story, it had all the elements that you would find in Dramatica to fully explore every point of view of the characters by the end and give you the final conclusion of the author's point. So to get started, I would recommend this beginner-friendly comic book, which introduces the idea of Dramatica. And it's also what they would recommend on their website to read, so that you can get basically a crash course into Dramatica without being overwhelmed by the actual clinically written textbook. And it'll give you a good idea of how to actually get started using it. But I think the website is down now. Like, the website has been changed, so you can't even find this at that website. I might have to figure out some type of workaround or link to something else in the description. So this is one of those examples of Dramatica in use where I actually heard that that's what was used to create the series. I actually didn't watch this. Well, actually, I watched the first episode just to see how Dramatica was used to map that first episode. It was said that it was used on this entire first season, and the first season was really strong. I didn't watch the whole season, so I don't know how well it turned out. But what I understood from watching that first episode was that just because it's using Dramatica doesn't mean it's in a package or a format that I would be into or I would be interested in. Because this is Tangled series, like, I'm not the target audience for this story, so I just didn't even start reading it. I didn't start watching it. I didn't feel like there was any need to continue, but I was just like, okay, let me see if I can identify the specific points that Dramatica shows so that I can at least get a little bit of a feel for how they're using it. So here are the basics, the very basics of Dramatica. We're gonna jump right in so that you can get a feel for how it works and how you can use it. Dramatica proposes that a complete story has 4 concurrent narrative through lines, which each deal with external or internal factors. So these through lines include the main character through line, the impact character through line, the relationship through line, and the overall story through line. And I will explain what those are in just a minute. And then the domains, which means the area of the story in which the through line is explored. The domains are situation, which means an external circumstance that is fixed, that is stuck in place, that the characters are in. Let's say you're in an orphanage and this business is trying to destroy the orphanage. The kids are just stuck in that situation and they need to figure something out to get out of it. And then you have the domain of activity. This means a thing that the characters are doing to achieve a specific goal. It's just an activity. It's an external activity, or it's an external action that's going on. The bottom 2 are internal. So manipulation would be, this is also called differently in the book. It can also be called psychology. So manipulation would involve a character's internal way of thinking, their internal activity of the mind, how they're thinking and how they go about resolving or solving problems. Then fixed attitude would be a character's static internal way of thinking, like their internal way of seeing the world. Let's say a character has a prejudice against another type of character and they are fixed in their point of view and they're not going to change at all. Like a fixed attitude doesn't change. So your main character could be placed in any one of these 4 through lines. Your impact character could be in any one of these 4 through lines, and the same with the other 2. So let's say your main character is in a situation and they're in a situation they can't control. That would put your main character in situation. Or let's say your main character is training for a half marathon. Your character would then would he be in situation, manipulation, fixed attitude, or activity? If he's training, he's doing some sort of external activity to achieve some type of result. So he'd be placed in activity. And then according to the rules of Dramatica, if your main character is placed in one box, your impact character is always going to be directly diagonal from that. So your impact character would fall into manipulation. But that is deeper into the book. We don't have to explain that deeply right now. So these are the 4 through lines that a story must have in order to fully explore the thematic argument. So the 4 through lines. The main character has a certain stance or disposition in life which they believe. The impact character has an opposing stance which explores the other side of the argument. The relationship between the two, which is the relationships through line, otherwise known as the subjective story, is how we see the argument play out over the course of the story. And then the overall story is what they're calling the objective story right here, is the root issue that all the characters in the story are dealing with. So, A main character is one of two different types. They can either be a steadfast character, which is a character that doesn't change throughout the course of the story. It is a character who believes in his position until the end of the story, despite the impact character's influence. This would be most shonen protagonists like Goku, Naruto, or superheroes like Superman or Batman. They don't change. The others do. This is why when people say, oh, Goku doesn't work because he doesn't change, or Goku's a bad character because he doesn't change, or Luffy from One Piece is a bad character because he doesn't change. They're not supposed to change. Everyone else around them is the one that changes. They think that the character is supposed to have like an arc, but because they are a steadfast character, it is those around them that are meant to change. Like, let's say the villain changes their point of view, or the impact character changes their point of view. And this is the other type of main character. They can also be a change character, which is what most people are used to, especially in American movies. It is one who changes his position by the climax as a result of the impact character's influence. This would be Luke Skywalker from Star Wars or Woody from Toy Story. Time lock and option lock are integral to creating tension in the story, but it's not necessary for the purpose of the video. I'll just cover it briefly right here so you know what they are. So a ticking clock, time lock, is a good way to ramp up tension, but it isn't the only way to do so. It is only one of two ways that Dramatica proposes that a story can reach its climax. The characters either run out of time or they run out of options. Like a murder mystery, if there is no time limit to find the murderer, then we are basically whittling down our list of suspects until we run out of options and find out who it really is in the end. And then for a time limit, it could be that we are dealing with a test where the main characters have to complete the test by the time limit, and if they don't, they lose. And the time limit is set up so that every second that ticks by, we are ramping up the tension because the main characters are running out of time to succeed, and we want to see if they will succeed or not by the end of that time limit. So it would be a time lock instead of an option lock, and you can't choose both. So pick one, and that will be what you use for the course of that particular story. All right, so there are a few caveats to using Dramatica theory for your story. Entertainment value is way more important than perfect structure. Let me repeat this. Entertainment value is way more important than having the perfect structure for your story, because you could have the most perfect structure in the world, but if your story is too boring for people to take in or read, then nobody's gonna read it. So entertainment value, just look at JJK and Dandadan. Like, I always bring up those two examples, but that's the perfect example of people just look at the fights, they look at the sauce, they look at the animation, they look at how cool it is, and they forgive a lot of the structural flaws and issues that permeate the entire story because they're just like, fuck it. Like, the characters look cool and they have cool powers and the animation is awesome. So your mileage will vary with using perfect structure. This is for like super storytelling nerds like me who are just like, I gotta figure out how to make stuff on the level of One Piece, Attack on Titan, Naruto. I want to figure out how to make top tier stuff like a silent voice. So that's why I wanted to learn this story structure. I wanted to learn how to make something like Monster, or something like Gurren Lagann, something deep, something like Berserk. And this structure, I was like, okay, I know I can use this to do that. And just because something is created using Dramatica doesn't mean it will be good, fun, or popular. You can use it all day, and if it's not actually got like fun looking characters, then people just won't even look at it that much. They won't want to engage. And just because something is categorized as a complete story by Dramatica doesn't mean it will be good. There are stories that are technically structurally sound, but it doesn't mean that everybody loves it, or it's a popular story, or that it's even like enjoyable to read or get through. And just because a story isn't complete doesn't mean that it's bad or won't be popular. Just look at JJK or Dan, or not even to shit on them. Let's just look at Dragon Ball Z. Like, Dragon Ball Z is not a complete story in the eyes of Dramatica, but it still gives you that feeling of enjoyment. Like, the entertainment value. You get so much entertainment value out of consuming Dragon Ball that you're just like, yeah, so what? So what if it doesn't have perfect structure? You could say that Naruto has a better structure than Dragon Ball Z, but both of them have comparable entertainment value because of the way that they're drawn, because of 1,000 other factors that have nothing to do with perfect story structure. And just because a story is complete doesn't mean that the writer used Dramatica to write it. Complete stories have existed for millennia. So your stuff like, I don't know, Gone with the Wind, or Wuthering Heights, or 1984, they're the stories that have that complete feeling that existed before Dramatica existed. Dramatica is just trying to map stories to a concept that was created in the 1980s. Like, Dramatica is observing completed stories and creating a theory based on what already existed, just like any other storytelling theory that people are trying to sell. And in this case, I also suspect that Hunter x Hunter's Chimera Ant arc is also a completed story, like a complete story. And I can't prove whether or not that Dramatica was used to create that, but I have a strong feeling that it might have been. I just don't know. Maybe it's translated in Japanese. Maybe Togashi knows English, but I have a feeling that he was able to make full use of all his characters in that arc because of the things that Dramatica uses. And one day I'm going to make a video that shows you exactly how the Chimera Ant arc makes use of everything that Dramatica would combine to make a full story, and how exactly that story worked. And Attack on Titan is one of the most complete stories and bona fide masterpieces of the last decade. But no amount of reading Dramatica will give you the creative chops to pull off a story like that. You need to have the ability to think in that way and to come up with a concept like that, but then also to execute on that in an exciting and engaging way that'll keep readers hooked from beginning to end. And that unique combination of skills came together in one guy, in Hajime Isayama. So you're gonna have to find your own way to pull off something like that. So what Dramatica really is, it's simply a tool to make sure all your narrative bases are covered and your story is structurally sound. I don't know why I typed orb there, but orb on the movements of Earth is what I think I meant by that. And I'm pretty sure Uoto, the creator of Orb, had some understanding of solid story structure before he started writing that, before he started writing Hyakuemu 100 meters, his other manga. But it helps with analysis as well. It's not a magical pill to give you cool ideas to use. It'll just make sure that they carry weight and meaning. Just don't try to force fit your story into the structure, or you will drive yourself crazy. It is something I've done in the past where I'm just like trying to obsessively match everything that I'm writing to the structure without even fully understanding what type of story that I'm trying to tell or write, and it ends up like warping what I had in mind before I even understood what I had in mind. So I had to just write first and then figure out how to structure it and create it solidly later on. And so if you want to read any further on Dramatica, you can check out these sites. Dramatica.com, I don't think it's there anymore. NarrativeFirst.com is still there. Dramatica Unplugged is the YouTube series where you can watch the creator of the idea, the theory itself, talk about her understanding of Dramatica and how it works. Like she came up with it. And you can watch Jim Hull's subtext videos. I think it's called Narova now, the software that they're using to allow you to use Dramatica. Dramatica is a computer software where it takes basically all the concepts you learn in the book and organizes them so that you can put it all together and create the treatment of your story that is narratively sound. Basically, it's kind of like using a calculator to do math. That's what the Dramatica program is, because you can do all of this by hand. Like you can do all your story structuring by hand and figure it out and do all that, but that is going to take you forever. It's just going to take you a long time to do it all by hand. The program allows you to keep all your information organized and structured so that you can actually refer back to what you already typed in and then keep your story consistent throughout. That's what the program helps you with. So you don't have to refer back to every note on your note cards, or have a whole big binder full of pages that you're writing out by hand and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what that will help with. And if you want to check out a story that I'm currently using Dramatica to write for, check out my latest webcomic, Saintly. It is a demon chase horror action comedy about two best friends who have to outrun the demon loan sharks that they borrowed from. Basically, it's like Scooby-Doo meets K-pop demon hunters without the K-pop. And the story backs the main character into a corner where she has to decide between the hard path to success or lose her soul to the lure of easy money. And we get to see the ramifications of her choice, and if she can hide this deal with the devil from her friend, or if it will tear them apart. And I hope you read my comic in the description and check out the story. It should appear in your email inbox or your spam folder if you don't see it. So basically, I'm making this video because I have a lot of story concepts and stories that I want to analyze through this lens, and I want to give you guys a video that you can reference back to when I'm talking about these concepts so that you understand what I'm trying to say. This is the story structure that I use when I get stuck on any story problem and I'm like, okay, I need a tool, or I need to figure out which gear to shift so that I can make the story work again. And that is the structure. So I'll be talking about it more in the future. It's not the only one I use, but it is the most sophisticated and complete of the storytelling paradigms that I've ever seen in my life. So I hope you'll give it a shot if you are a writer, and that'll be all for this video. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.